Welcome to Monday, August 17th, 2026. This is Bright Videos News. I'm Mike Adams with brightvideos.com. And, wow, one of my dreams is coming true right now. I've got something to show you. You may recall that, what was it, over a year ago, I think, or maybe a year ago, I predicted that this year, 2026, we would be able to produce short video documentaries, rendering all the video locally on our own systems. Now, of course, I happen to have sort of better systems than just the typical gamer or consumer or whatever. I have a miniature data center, you could say. But I have just been able to achieve something with it that is rather extraordinary, and I'm going to show it to you here. This is all due to the new video model from Minimax called Minimax H3. And the video model that myself and others were using before this was LTX 2.3, which was a very capable model. It's been out for, I don't know, eight months or longer. LTX 2.3 was great, but of course it had a lot of limitations. And it would character consistency was very difficult. But now with Minimax H3, which I was running all weekend, I can't get enough. I was able to produce a music video. I'm just going to go ahead and show it to you. Okay, so this is a music video for a new song that I'm going to release separately here. It's called Steel Coffin, and it's about the U.S. Navy sailors who are, of course, having a very rough time right now with the food running out on their ships and the toilets not working and, horrible conditions. At least that's what's being reported. And some people are reporting texts from the mothers of the soldiers. So it seems to be very real, especially on the USS Abraham Lincoln and possibly other ships as well, like the Tripoli. But I'm going to play this music video for you in full here, and I'll be releasing it separately as a standalone. And I want you to notice this music video. This was all rendered locally. I did not use Seed Dance. I did not use any cloud-based systems. This is all, uncensored. I can render anything I want locally. The song is my own composition using Suno. So Suno created the actual song based on my, prompting and descriptions and lyrics, etc. But all the video is rendered by Minimax H3, and you're going to see some extraordinary things in this, such as like a 360 camera rotating around the main characters. You're going to see panning and zooming, and you're going to see water effects that you probably didn't think were even possible, at least with local rendering. You're going to see character consistency. There's basically 3 characters in this video, and the 3 characters look the same throughout the entire video, which is, it has been very difficult to do that. It was basically impossible a year ago. And also, I didn't see that any of the soldiers or sailors, I didn't see that they have 6 fingers. So maybe there are 6 fingers somewhere in the video. I didn't notice it. But this looks pretty good. Now, it's a cartoon style on purpose. I wanted to do it kind of an animated cartoon style. It's not trying to be photorealistic on purpose. I didn't want anybody to be, tricked into thinking this was video footage from the USS Abraham Lincoln, because obviously it's not. This is a stylized cartoon music video with sailors in kind of more of a traditional old sailor uniform, like a U.S. Navy uniform from a couple of decades ago, I'm guessing. I don't know. Never been in the Navy, so I don't know what they wear exactly. But anyway, check it out, and then I'll give you some more commentary on the other side. I've got some great stuff coming up for you today, including an amazing interview, but check out the video here. Here we go.
Yeah. In history. Locked in the a steel city, 5,000 souls. No sun, no shore, just the flight deck holds 200 days straight, a record they own, while the brass in DC sits warm on their throne. Mold on the showers, toilets don't flush, laundry's been broken for weeks, what's the rush? Half a cup of rice and 2 tortillas dry, while the bombs keep falling from the Arabian sky. No hot water running, no soap for the skin, no toothpaste, no deodorant, the store's wearing thin. 16-hour shifts with no end in sight, locked in this vessel, no morning light.
Who speaks for the sailors? Who speaks for the damned?
The Navy says,
resilient, but they don't give a damn. Steel coffin,
buried alive at sea.
Steel coffin,
Going down
in history.
Pete called it fake news back in April, you see. While the crew was starving in the Strait of Hormuz, completely misrepresented the new party line as the sailors lose weight and they lose their minds. Trump says not nearly long enough. Tell that to the kid who ain't seen his mom. Tell that to the wife getting silence for mail while the blockade drags on with no end game, no tail. Hung cow looked the families dead in the eye, said they've never broken another Navy lie. A sailor went overboard, mental health incident, but they swear there's no crisis, just resilient men. Operation Epic Fury, more like epic shame. Another war of choice with no one to blame but the admirals, the Pentagon, the suits on their hill, who treat human beings like cannon fodder still.
Who speaks for the sailors? Who speaks for the damned?
The Navy says,
resilient,
but they don't give a damn.
Steel coffin,
Buried alive at sea.
steel coffin,
Going down
in history.
I don't hate the sailor. I don't hate the sailor. I don't hate the sailor. I pity the sailor. He signed up to serve, not to rot in your war, not to ration his soul while you rattle for more, not to pray for a report call that never arrives while his government laughs and his sanity dies. You put them in combat with holes in the deck, then you wonder why men wanna jump off the wreck. 5,000 stories, 5,000 screens, 5,000 prisoners of your war machine. And when they come home, if they come home, what will be left but the ghost in the bone? You break them, you use them, you toss them aside and call it patriotism with arrogant pride.
Who speaks for the sailors? Who speaks for the damned?
The Navy says,
Resilient,
but they don't give a damn.
steel coffin,
Buried alive at sea.
steel coffin,
Going down in history. USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN 72, November to August and counting. No fresh fruit, no sunshine, no home, just steel, just water, just war. In history.
So there you go. There's my first song using this video engine called Steel Coffin. I actually did not put a tremendous amount of time in it. It was more of a sort of a pilot. Just I mean, look, I care deeply about the well-being of the U.S. Navy sailors, and I think this message is very important. But I did not put a ton of time into this song. I was just trying to sort of test it. And it came out way better than I expected. And if you go back and watch the video, you'll see it even handles reflections correctly, and water physics and light physics and glare. And again, the characters were consistent, although it would have different men singing, or sometimes multiple men singing at the same time. It didn't, like, the engine didn't really know that it should be just one singer. But then again, that singer could be white, could be black, could be Latino, who knows, you know? So anyway, the mouth expressions and the the vocalization of the song lyrics with perfect lip sync was just stunning. This was something that was unachievable. Even if you tried this in LTX 2.3, you'd be pulling your hair out. Believe me, I've tried that. And I can't wait to use this with what's the guy's name that I rendered? The guy, like the police detective guy at a desk in a black and white photo, like from the 1960s or something. I forgot what I named that guy. I'm going to have him animated with this system. That's going to be amazing. Can't wait for that. He's going to be a rock star with this system. But anyway, what this shows you is that, yeah, I can do music videos, but we can also do short films, and we can do like voiceover narration, mini documentaries. And I'm working on that right now. I've had to write a lot of custom code for that. That's actually still running in the background. But I can see that that's going to work. So in the days ahead, I'll probably bring you some interesting things about that. Then my prediction from last year was that by 2027, we could do full-length documentaries rendered on our own hardware. Clearly, that will happen. Clearly. In fact, I mean, gosh, I've written a production engine that will probably do that before Christmas of this year. I just have to see if it will scale, you know. But short films are coming. Lots of like little podcast things are coming. We're going to be upgrading, and I'm going to do more music videos. I'm going to do, you know, character videos and things like that. All educational or maybe sometimes parody. And of course, we're going to have Mr. Fu Koff will be making a new appearance. Mr. Fu Koff, who is the Chinese kung fu master that tells you to fuck off. Yeah, he's going to make a comeback. I can't wait to see what I can make that character do with this Minimax engine. It's going to be loads of fun. All right. One of the reasons that all of this matters so much is because, of course, well, Marjorie Taylor Greene broke the news over the weekend that Trump and the Pentagon are seriously discussing using nuclear weapons against Iran. Which, yes, it's completely insane. But it also sounds like exactly something that Trump would do because he is insane. So I have a special report for you on that. I'll run that next. And then I have a DTV, or Decentralized TV, special episode here, an interview with Dave Collum. And Dave Collum, you know, he was a professor of organic chemistry at, I believe, Cornell. And man, you know, he and I really hit it off talking about sodium chemistry. He's an expert in sodium chemistry. I mean, legitimate science expert in sodium chemistry. And I'm very interested in sodium ion batteries, of course. So we got to talk about some interesting things. But overall, we talked about what's happening with oil and the economy and the supply chains and a broad spectrum of other topics. It was a really fascinating conversation with Dave. So I appreciate him taking the time to join us and putting up with all my interruptions. I kept interrupting him because I was like, no, but what about this? So I apologize to Dave for that. But that's what's coming up here today. Enjoy the rest of the broadcast. And tomorrow I have an interview with Gerald Celente that is also very hard hitting. And this is a bombshell week of interviews. And you just wait till you see who I have as a guest next week also. Oh my goodness. So some top names and some top minds coming your way all this week and all next week as well. Plus some new videos, probably some new music videos. Now that I know I can make music videos, I'm just like, I can't sleep. I got to make music videos. You know, that's just the way I am. I get a new technology. I'm like a kid in a candy store. It's like, play with it. You know, can I have the lollipops and the candy canes? Well, again, kid in a candy store, although I don't eat that crap. But when I was a kid, I did. Not anymore. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of the show, and we'll have much more for you the rest of this week. Enjoy. Okay, former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I interviewed just last week, is now warning that Trump and the Pentagon are actively discussing using nuclear weapons on Iran. I'm going to read her post for you here, part of it, and then I'm going to play a clip of my interview with her last week that's kind of a run-up to this issue. But let me read part of her tweet here first. This is a red alert critical issue. We may be on the verge of nuclear war, started by America again. But she says, yes, you read that correctly. It's real. I'm not speculating. I know. And it's pure evil. She says, the last time a nuclear weapon was used was August 6th and 9th of 1945 on two cities in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, immediately killing 110,000 people, vaporizing people at ground zero, and total deaths reached 214,000 by the end of the year from severe burns and trauma. But the extreme suffering continued for the Japanese people from radiation sickness, skyrocketing cancer rates, and generational birth defects. Now, I want to stop right there because she's absolutely right. Generational birth defects. Any detonation of a nuclear weapon will be a depopulation event for any member of humanity that has taken the mRNA jabs of any kind. For reasons that I've talked about previously and that I will readdress here, it's a binary weapons system. The mRNA that produces alien proteins out of your human cells, remember, it hijacks your cell's protein synthesis mechanisms, your ribosomes, causes your human cells to churn out non-human proteins or spike proteins or even portions of so-called spike subunits. And these are extremely toxic to human biology. Specifically, they turn off the DNA repair mechanisms that your body uses to recover from radiation exposure. They turn them off by 85 to 90%, according to published peer-reviewed literature. Multiple studies, not just one, multiple studies. I cover this in detail in my upcoming free course about this. What this means is that Trump may be ready to unleash nuclear detonations as part of Operation Warp Speed, to unleash the final part of the binary weapon system that could place the lives of billions of human beings at risk of dying. And I think there's a very good chance that he's going to do it. Marjorie Taylor Greene continues. She says, not to mention wiping out all means of their economy. She's, again, talking about Japan. And the suffering was so great that all of humanity vowed never again. She writes, Trump and his admin were told by our own intelligence that Iran was nowhere near creating a nuclear weapon. Then Israel said the same line it's repeated for decades, quote, Iran is only weeks away. So we bombed anyways, killed their leaders and innocent little children in a school, and Iran has controlled the Strait of Hormuz ever since, and punished the region for their part in it. And now our government is the one actually discussing lowering the nuclear threshold in order to use nuclear weapons against Iran, even though Trump claims he's won the war like 40 times and says the U.S. controls the Strait of Hormuz. Trump promised no more foreign wars, but may actually be the one who delivers a nuclear holocaust that would likely drag the entire world into major conflict, economic depression, and mass human suffering we've never seen in our lifetimes and maybe throughout history. She says, people need to speak out and boldly stop this insanity. America is not untouchable. If and when that happens, everyone, and I do mean everyone, will hold all of those in leadership right now fully responsible for the rest of human history. Do not use nuclear weapons and stop this war now. I replied and said, Trump could very well unleash a nuclear holocaust that would kill billions of human beings. It could be 500 times more deaths than the Holocaust of World War II. That's just one of my comments. Now, I want to play a segment from my interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene from last week It's just a couple of minutes here where she talks a little bit about this. But remember, we recorded that interview before this news broke, but this does provide some context. So let me play that clip and then I'll continue with my commentary. Here we go.
But it's the propaganda that is sold over and over and over again by administration after administration. And it doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat, the propaganda is sold to the American people over and over of why we need to go bomb or go to war in some country that many people can't find on a map and have never been to and it doesn't affect us here at home. And, the president said that it was that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Well, he was told by Tulsi Gabbard and all of our intelligence agencies that Iran is nowhere near developing a nuclear weapon. And that was also said by the international agencies that monitor all of this. And so that's not the real reason. And that's proving to be true right now. And their so-called negotiations that really are not happening. It's really all about the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
And it's really all about the trade routes and about oil. Once again, it's another Middle East war all about oil. And I'm sorry, we're $40 trillion in debt. And our dollar is weakening and weakening and weakening down to the point where so many people today can't afford, like families, they can't afford to live on a single income anymore like you could 20 years ago.
That's right.
It's a 2 working household now. And just what it is to be an American is completely changing.
All right. So there's the interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene, or at least a little clip of it. You can watch the full interview at brightvideos.com. I published it last week, of course. And I've got a lot of other fascinating interviews ahead that you won't want to miss. So be sure to check out brightvideos.com. Daily, that's where I've got podcasts and also interviews and instructional videos. Now, before I continue with my commentary on the insanity of what Trump and the Pentagon are apparently discussing possibly doing, I want to mention that I have a free long format course that I'm about to release, and it provides details of how to survive the aftermath of a nuclear war, that is radioisotope fallout, as well as surviving another pandemic caused by mRNA injections, which causes what I call vaccine fallout. So vaccine fallout is when toxic spike protein or other structures are shedding from people's cells because they were injected with mRNA. You combine these two, the nuclear fallout plus the vaccine fallout, it's a kill switch for much of humanity. And I think that's the whole point here. But I'm about to teach you how to survive it. And I really mean that. I can show you precisely how to survive, even fallout radiation, even ionizing radiation. I can show you through targeted nutritional strategies, including many items that you can literally grow yourself at home for free. And I give you specific instructions and specific plants with the specific molecules that will shield your DNA and repair your DNA from ionizing single-strand breaks, double-strand breaks, DNA lesions, and so on. I can show you how to survive a nuclear war. I'm not saying if you're at ground zero. Obviously, if you take the nuke like right above you, you're probably dead. But I'm talking about fallout scenarios where you're exposed to a much higher level of fallout isotopes, circulating cesium-137 in the air, in the soils, and dust particles, strontium-90, iodine-131, plutonium and uranium, gamma radiation, beta radiation, and alpha emitter particles being inhaled and things like that. I cover the whole thing in a free course that will be launched within, it looks like 2 weeks or less. I only have one more chapter to record, and my team is already working on the videos and everything for the chapters that I've completed. It's going to be 12 chapters, it looks like. And I've recorded 11 out of 12. It's over 20 hours already. So it's basically an audio book that's illustrated. And it will save your life in these scenarios. And here's the thing. What I learned in researching and teaching this information is that you actually can survive the aftermath of a nuclear war. Most people won't. I mean, if it's bad enough, most people won't because they don't have the knowledge that I teach. The knowledge is the difference. The knowledge is life versus death. The ignorant will die. The knowledgeable will live with their genetic code intact, meaning they can still reproduce. They can still have children who themselves can reproduce. The lineage continues if you have the right nutritional strategies. And it's not just, oh, take more vitamin C. No, it's nothing that simple. There are very specific molecules that you need to know about from very specific sources that have very specific mechanisms in your biochemistry to repair or shield your genetic code. And there are certain molecules from Mother Nature that have shockingly unique properties that allow them to shield your cells from ionizing radiation or other forms of oxidation, even exposure to toxic chemicals and exposure to spike proteins and so on. So all that information is coming out for free. You won't have to pay anything. You'll just enter your email address and you'll be able to access the entire course completely free of charge. Again, that's coming out. My goal is to launch it, well, I'm going to say September 1st because that's 2 weeks away. September 1st is my goal. And I think we're going to make it. We're very, very close to that. I mean, we're close to having it right now. So that information is coming. I'm sharing this because people freak out about radiation and nuclear war. They don't understand how radiation harms them. They don't understand the difference between the different emissions, gamma versus beta versus alpha. They don't understand half-lives. And I'm not blaming them. You actually have to study this information to know it. It's not just common knowledge. But because people don't understand it, they are scared about it. And so when people are scared, they make irrational decisions. I'm here to educate you about all these issues, to show you exactly how to halt the risk. For example, there's a very specific dietary strategy that can stop your bones from absorbing strontium-90. Strontium-90 is a very toxic radioisotope that if you ingest it, it goes right to your bones and it stays there forever. But I can teach you exactly how to stop that, and it's very simple. There are many other mechanisms. Once you know them, it's like, oh my God, how did I not know this? It's so simple. It's so easy. But people will die from lack of knowledge. They will die from not knowing these simple things. So anyway, that course is coming soon. Just keep watching for my announcements here on brightvideos.com or naturalnews.com, or you can follow me on X at Health Ranger until they ban me there. Once I'm banned there, you can follow me at brighteon.social. Also, username is Health Ranger, or brighteon.io, username Health Ranger, also the same there. All right, so getting back to what Marjorie Taylor Greene is talking about. Here's my commentary. Now, as Marjorie said in her text, in her tweet, Trump has already claimed that he's won the war at least 40 times. He claims he has defeated Iran, that Iran we've destroyed their air force, their entire navy. We've destroyed all their missile launchers over and over and over again. And Trump also absurdly claims that we, the United States, that we are in total control of the Strait of Hormuz, that Iran has no control whatsoever. So obviously the question, well, if we've already won like 40 times and we control the Strait of Hormuz, and why do we need to use nukes? What is there left to do? It seems like the war's over, according to Trump. And then you realize Trump is just a congenital liar. He just lies all the time. Actually, the United States has been militarily defeated by Iran. The Navy can't even sail close to the Strait of Hormuz. We're not in control of the Strait. Iran is in total control over the Strait. No ships can go through the Strait without Iran's permission. The U.S. military, well, the Navy, is sitting far outside the Strait trying to run a secondary blockade and then claiming we have control. Well, that's not really control, is it? And then if the U.S. has already defeated Iran, then how is it that Iran can still launch missiles and drones and rockets and all kinds of weapons? And how is it that Iran can still hit military bases in Jordan? U.S. bases. And clearly Iran could hit Tel Aviv. They've done it before. They can hit ships in the Persian Gulf, ships in the Strait. They could hit ships. They could probably hit Diego Garcia, which is not a ship, but an island. So if Iran has been defeated, then who's shooting down all the U.S. aircraft that are being lost, including U.S. like Reaper drones or whatever all the drone models are? Who's shooting those down if Iran has been utterly defeated? And, the answer is that, again, Iran is actually winning. The U.S. military has been embarrassingly defeated, which is why Trump and the Pentagon are getting desperate enough to consider using nuclear weapons. The U.S. has practically run out of munitions. The U.S. air interceptors for systems like the Patriot interceptor batteries, those interceptors don't work, except maybe, according to MIT educator and expert Theodore Postal, they work maybe 3% of the time, something like that, maybe 5% if you're generous. But at least 19 out of 20 times they do not work. The U.S. Navy has a worsening morale problem, especially on the USS Abraham Lincoln. The sailors are reportedly starving. They've run out of food. The toilets sometimes don't work. The showers are all moldy. Morale is just plunging. And the U.S. can't protect any commercial tankers. The U.S. can't protect Qatar, can't protect UAE, Oman, can't protect Dubai or Bahrain or Kuwait, for that matter, or any place in the region, because virtually all the U.S. military bases have been significantly damaged or completely destroyed in the region around the Persian Gulf. So Trump calls that a victory. The rest of the world calls that a total defeat of the United States military, which has had to flee the entire region, flee back to Jordan, which is close to Israel. That's where we are now. And the only resupply base for the U.S. Navy now is Diego Garcia, which is something like 2,500 kilometers away, or maybe something close to that. I don't recall the exact distance, but it's far away. Isn't Diego Garcia, isn't that in the South Indian Ocean, basically, essentially? I mean, it's very far. So that's why the White House and the Pentagon are considering using nuclear weapons, because they have nothing left. Nothing else is working. And the U.S. doesn't control the Strait of Hormuz. Not even close. Trump is lying, as always. He's always lying. Fox News watchers have no idea about the reality of the situation, but it's rather dire for the United States. But now, what will happen if the U.S. uses nuclear weapons? Even just a small tactical nuclear weapon, which could still be much larger than what was dropped over Hiroshima. The Hiroshima atomic bomb was roughly about 15 kilotons equivalent of TNT. 15 kilotons. Even tactical nuclear weapons today are in the range of 100 kilotons or more, making them much, much larger. And it's a relatively common nuclear warhead in the U.S. arsenal to have a 1 megaton bomb, which would be, 66 times larger than Hiroshima? That's a 1 megaton warhead. And of course, we have warheads that are much larger than that. But what happens if the U.S. begins to unleash nuclear weapons? Well, first off, what's going to happen is, of course, the U.S. will have proven itself to be, yet again, the only country in the world to deploy nuclear weapons in an unjustified manner. In World War II, the U.S. dropped them on civilian populations, not military targets. And in the war with Iran, it's a war that the U.S. started. And it started the war when Iran was posing no acute threat to the United States whatsoever. In fact, Iran was relatively well behaved. I mean, the Strait of Hormuz was wide open and everybody could sail through it right away. Seems like that's a pretty good situation. That was Iran being polite. No more, it seems. Well, anyway, if the U.S. starts dropping nuclear weapons on Iran, the entire world will express extreme outrage and at the U.S. The U.S. will again prove that it is an empire of war criminals. I mean, most of the world knows that already, but that will just remove any doubt in the minds of anybody that's on the fence. It's like, yep, they're dropping nukes. No doubt civilians would be killed. So this will be another use of nuclear weapons against civilian populations. Not surprising, right? Because the U.S. does that. And this would immediately upgrade the nuclear weapons posture of other nuclear nations, notably Pakistan, which is not that far away. Pakistan clearly capable of lending or giving nukes to Iran, and Iran is clearly capable of delivering ballistic missiles to Tel Aviv. And so I expect that if Trump approves the dropping of a nuclear weapon on Iran, I think there's a very high chance that Iran will just nuke Tel Aviv and just wipe Israel off the map, which probably would cause the entire Muslim world to celebrate, of course, and probably a lot of the non-Muslim world, because there are a lot of Christians, in Gaza, and Christians in Lebanon and so on. Not everybody is Islamic, in the Middle East, obviously. There are a lot of other religions too. Hinduism, for example, as well as Christianity and Catholicism, etc. But then Israel would probably respond with a massive retaliation as much as they could. The Samson option, right? They would just launch the crap out of whatever nukes they have left, probably screaming like, just kill everybody, let God sort them out, because that's kind of their attitude. And then the question is, well, what would Russia do? What would China do? What would India do? What would North Korea do? Would these other countries see this as a narrow window of opportunity to just maybe, in their minds, just nuke the crap out of Washington, D.C. and end the American empire once and for all? I'm not predicting that would happen, but it's a possibility we have to consider. We know that Russia has the Poseidon nuclear underwater drones parked off the coast of North America, off both coasts, actually, the east and west coast. One satellite signal, and those detonate, and then you have a 1,000-meter high tidal wave of radioactive seawater inundating the entire east coast, up to several miles inland, depending on the terrain and the elevation differences. But there goes Washington, D.C. for centuries. And there goes Norfolk, Virginia. There goes, New York City, etc. The entire U.S. East Coast would be unlivable for at least 300 years due to cesium-137 being deposited through the ocean water. And by the way, all the cropland along the East Coast would also be utterly unusable for 3 centuries. Is that what Trump is willing to risk? Yeah, probably, because he's insane. He's completely insane. I wouldn't be surprised no matter what he does, because he is irrational. See, Iran is being rational, but Trump and Hegseth and these lunatics at Fox News and General Keane or Admiral Keane, whatever his rank is, freaking lunatics. They don't care if they put the lives of billions of people at risk, which is exactly what they're begging for here. We could be looking at a global thermonuclear war, a large-scale exchange of nuclear detonations, with, of course, a 1 to 2 year nuclear winter that follows. So much particulate matter in the atmosphere that it dims the sun enough to block photosynthesis to cause global crop failures for 1 to 2 years, which would kill most of the human population currently living on the planet. I mean, talk about famine. This is way worse than lack of fertilizer. It would be lack of sunlight. The only people to survive that would be those who have at least a year's supply of stored food, and probably those who also have underground bunkers, just like, let's see, all the wealthy tech gurus have built, and all the global elitists have built big underground bunkers and stocked them. What do you think they know that they're not telling us? Probably they know they're going to start a nuclear war. And they plan to just go underground and survive there for a year and then come back up and see who's left. Meanwhile, they're going to let the whole world just collapse and everybody goes like full zombie Mad Max with radiation fallout and, gun battles everywhere. It's like, yeah, they really want to see this, don't they? See, what you need to understand, and I know this is difficult if you're an American listening to this, and maybe difficult to believe, but the United States of America, the current U.S. empire, which is nothing like the founding vision, is nothing like the country we used to have post-World War II. This empire is pretty much hated all over the world. The world hates the way America treats them. America uses economic sanctions. I mean, look at Scott Besson. He brags about, we're just stealing all their money. We're just taking all their oil out of Venezuela. We're just destroying the currency of Iran. I mean, he brags about, we've stolen all their crypto. We just took all their homes, their luxury, everything, their land. We just took everything from everybody. He brags about this publicly, okay? It's just a small example of the kind of arrogance that the American empire demonstrates. The world notices this. The rest of the world sees this. They see Trump acting like a deranged mad king lunatic. Do you think that if the world had an opportunity to take out the U.S. empire because Trump opened the door with a nuclear weapon, do you think the world might take that opportunity and say, basically, F it, F it, let's just launch everything. Like, this is the one chance to get rid of this tyranny on planet Earth, right? I could see North Korea doing that. I don't think China would do that, by the way. China's winning anyway. China is more rational. And I actually don't see Russia doing that. But maybe Russia would take the opportunity to say, well, now it's time to nuke all of Western Europe. Since Trump opened the door, and then Russia just starts nuking Poland and Romania and all the military bases all over Western Europe and Germany and, of course, the UK and France, etc. Maybe not Spain. Spain might be spared because Spain's leadership seemingly is a lot less insane than the UK and the other countries I mentioned. But you see what I mean? It can open the door, and maybe North Korea just decides to nuke South Korea. Or China decides, well, this is our opportunity, let's just take Taiwan. Or China decides to attack Tokyo. Or, there are any number of scenarios where there are already regional instabilities, that could just be, it's kind of like a tectonic plate shift, the plates, there's a lot of pressure built up and they're about ready to go. And then there's an earthquake in one area and it sets off earthquakes in other areas. That's what this could be like. Trump launches a nuke and all these other countries that have been holding their fire are like, well, I guess it's nuke time. And they've already got the target list of who they're going to nuke. Just last week, Lavrov from Russia announced that they've got a list of Western European targets, mostly military bases and probably drone factories and places like that, or missile factories, that they could hit. And Russia doesn't even need nukes, but they could take out those targets with thermobaric weapons, with Oreshnik weapons, with Iskanders, and I don't know what else they have. All kinds of things. But they they also have nukes, of course, thousands of them, as does China. So Trump and Hegseth and these warhawk lunatic neocons and the Fox News retards, they're all begging for global extermination. Begging for it. And that's what Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to warn us about. And she's right. We all need to raise our voices right now. I interviewed Dennis Kucinich recently about this. He's a very important voice for peace and reason in our world. And I completely agree with him. And Trump betrayed us all. He campaigned on peace and then took us to war. He escalated wars on two fronts. Probably trying to start a new war with China or somebody. We were lied to. It's time to raise our voices and demand peace. And frankly, we need to demand the removal of Trump. 25th Amendment, whatever legal mechanism exists, Trump has to be removed from power. He's insane. He's a threat to humanity. He's a danger to the entire world at this point. Because he, just to protect his ego, he seems likely to unleash nuclear weapons that could literally result in the deaths of billions of people from famine and the nuclear winter and economic collapse and radioactive fallout, etc. Trump, I believe, would kill billions of people if it meant that his ego was boosted a little bit and he didn't have to take a loss with Iran. He would rather billions die than for him to look like the pathetic weakling piece of crap that he has turned out to be. That's where Trump is. And that's a very dangerous person to leave in power. Very dangerous. In my opinion, Trump needs to be removed from power. We need more rational people to be involved in whatever decisions have to be made. And frankly, when it comes to Iran, oh yeah, I forgot. Over the weekend, Trump declared that he was going to claim the Strait of Hormuz as United States territory. See, what does that tell you? How insane he is. Really? You're going to claim the Strait of Hormuz as United States territory? You might as well claim the river that flows into Beijing as U.S. territory, you know? I mean, he's out of his mind. It's not U.S. territory. I mean, hasn't Marco Rubio been screaming for the last few months that it's international waters and no one can claim that it's theirs? And then Trump's like, no, but it's ours. What? Well, how are you going to take it? How are you going to keep it? How are you going to defend it? You're not. It's insane. The very idea is completely insane. Because Trump is insane. But, the Fox News, clapping seals. They just clapping along with them. Like, yeah, that's so great. We're going to seize the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah. You might as well be claiming rivers on Mars. It's like, how are you going to go defend them? Yeah, you're not. The U.S. Navy barely has toilets that work, and you're running out of food, running out of air interceptors. All the men in the Navy, once they get home, they're gone, man. They're not coming back. They're not signing up for another stint like the one they just endured. They're not going to re-up. Not a chance. So Trump is out of his mind and probably willing to do anything, including launching nuclear weapons. So my take is, be prepared for the most insane scenario imaginable, which would be the use of nuclear weapons. Be prepared. And, as I've said, you can survive it. I know how to survive it. I'll be teaching you how to survive it with my free course about genetic survival. You'll learn how to survive it. It's actually very straightforward. There's a recipe. But if you don't know the recipe, you're screwed. You'll be able to watch the whole course completely free. And I'm rushing to get that out the door as quickly as I can. Believe me, I've got workstations rendering video segments for this. So I will keep you posted, but pray for peace and raise your voice on this and definitely say publicly that you oppose this war and you oppose nuclear weapons in particular. Even if you support the war, for God's sake, oppose the use of nuclear weapons, unless you have some kind of suicide wish. And those of you living anywhere near the East Coast, if there's a nuclear war, you will all die. That is, if you're on the East Coast, if you're near the military bases or near Washington, D.C. or New York City or parts of Connecticut, what have you. I'm not saying that everybody in Florida dies, but more of the power centers of the military, the financial system, and the government of the United States. All of you in those areas, you will die. And there's no nutritional solution that will save you from taking a 1 megaton nuclear warhead up your ass. All the chlorella in the world isn't going to repair your DNA when you've been freaking vaporized. And that's what's going to happen to probably tens of millions of people if we end up in a nuclear war. That's what Trump is risking. And the targets will also include Houston and Chicago and Los Angeles and Denver, et cetera, et cetera. Seattle, Phoenix, right? Cities of industry, cities of energy, cities of finance, cities of transportation hubs, and so on, will all get nuked. And then all the magatards out there can tell us how much we're winning. Winning? Don't you mean glowing? No, we're winning. Because they're insane. All right, so I will keep you informed. Catch my videos at brightvideos.com. And of course, my articles and infographics are at naturalnews.com. Until then, get prepared. Our sponsor, the Satellite Phone Store, can help you. They've got satellite phones that don't need cell towers to function. Just go to sat123.com. They also have Faraday bags that protect your electronics against EMP effects of nuclear weapons or solar flares. They've got small bags, big bags, little mobile phone bags, laptop bags, like women's purses bags, the backpacks, and then very large bags that can hold generators and workstations and things like that. They've got them all. I think that website is darkbags.com, but you can also find them at sat123.com. They've got solar generators, so you can have electricity after the power grid fails. They've got a lot of things, so check them out. A very important source of survival supplies. sat123.com. All right, thank you for listening. Take care.
It's very difficult to send money to the future, real wealth to the future. That's the challenge. You're saying, if I put $1,000 away this month, how do I send that to myself 30 years from now? And you, A, have to not spend it. You got to get it in the bucket. And then B, it has to at least track inflation and ideally make more money. Now, a lot of people have this unbelievably distorted reality that they think they're going to make 10, 11, 12% a year.
Right.
Every year. And if you ask Warren Buffett, he will tell you 4%.
What ordinary household decision made today will look genius in 2030?
Don't buy SpaceX shares.
Well said. Mic drop.
Decentralize, got to realize, don't decarbonize. Decentralize, decentralize.
Welcome to today's interview here on Decentralized TV. I'm Mike Adams, the founder of Decentralized TV, and joined by my co-host, Todd Pittner. Welcome, Todd, from the great state of Florida. Great to have you here.
Happy recording day, Mike.
Yes.
My favorite day of the week.
This is my favorite day as well, and we have a brand new guest, I think, who may become a fan favorite. He's how do you describe our guest here? He's a perfect fit for us, I think.
He is. If you, man, how do I say this? But if you have ADD, then there's only one tweet during the year that you need to consider, and it is his annual year in review essay. And we'll unpack that, but he's just brilliant.
Well, let's just bring him on in. So let's welcome Dave Collum professor of organic chemistry previously. I don't think you're teaching right now, but you are doing podcasts and talking about economics and so much more. So welcome, Dave. We love your work. We're honored to have you on the show.
It's my pleasure. Glad to meet you finally after years of watching our paths crisscross digitally. And
I know.
Which it's a strange phenomenon, actually. I did a podcast earlier this week with a guy named Julian Dory, who's a very entertaining young man. And I just wanted to meet the guy. That's my bucket list is people, not places or things.
Well, it is interesting because you and I have been on a lot of the same shows, like Michael Ferris is where I typically see you, coffee and a mic. And I've listened to a lot of your analysis, and I saw you, I think, on Tucker a while ago as well. We had Tucker as a guest on the show here as well, which was fun.
I didn't know that.
We did, yeah. He joined us talking about economics and the fiat money system. Anyway, but we're here to talk about you and your take on what's happening in the world. And I think the number one thing I'd love to start out with, although Todd has like 50 questions for you for sure, but I'd like to ask you about when do the economic consequences of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz become real enough for people to say, okay, it's real? Because right now, there's a lot of fakery in the oil markets. There's a lot of paper. There's a lot of price manipulation, and people can just kind of pretend like everything's great. But for how long can that go on?
Well, my primary source is the internet and talking to podcast hosts. So one should not take my opinion very seriously. As one time I was doing a debate on Zero Hedge, and to Fleckenstein, I referred to as squeegeeing the drippings off the floor of the internet. And I've come to one of two conclusions. Either there's a big delayed reaction coming. And again, one of the popular theories is it's going to correlate with growing seasons, so that the big problem is going to be when the fertilizer shortages finally lead to crop shortages. And, I'm not sure I believe the helium shortage story, because helium comes spewing out of the ground wherever you're pumping natural gas. So you can probably find the helium. But if for example, the helium goes south, the supply goes completely south, then the chip makers can't exist. And heaven forbid, AI data centers get shut down or whatever. Probably be a mercy killing.
Well, let me interject. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we buy helium routinely for our mass spec lab. And I'm not saying it can't recover, but in March, we received a force majeure notice from our gas supplier.
Oh, you did?
No more helium. Well, actually, they said, we will not be able to give you any more helium than you bought last year. And we may not even be able to do that, but we will do our best. So that happened in March. As
soon as the strait got appeared to have been headed for shutdown, I sent an email off to our department chair. We use a lot of helium too. And I said, please stock up on helium to the extent you can.
Yes.
Because it could be hard to get. Now, the alternative model is that the Strait of Hormuz and its importance is way overblown, and that there's redundancy in the system and somehow it's going to work. But the model I don't accept is the people who say we are energy independent, so it doesn't matter to us because, as I like to say, what percentage of a Ford F-150 is made abroad, and how many parts on a Ford F-150 are optional, that you could still sell the car if you didn't have the part. Good
point.
The latter is very few.
Right.
And the former is a very large number. And so if for example, Japan and South Korea and stuff are screwed, then we're screwed, right? It's that simple. So, so we'll have a lot of energy and no cars.
The last time I bought a Ford, I noticed they didn't include all the parts. And that was long before the Strait of Hormuz. So there you go. That's just Ford.
That's just SOP right there.
Right. Okay, Todd, you want to jump in with your first question?
Sure. Dave, you developed a large following for your annual year in review essays related to the intersection of markets, politics, culture, and institutional credibility. You basically try to discern how the hell anybody figures out what's true anymore. Dave, what does sovereignty mean when you can no longer trust the price of money, the price of assets, or the information entering your own brain? Dave Collum.
It's a real problem. My brother sent me something yesterday that was Douglas McGregor talking about something very severe that was happening. And then he said that he dug into it, and it turns out it was AI. And he said I personally wouldn't have spotted it. There are people claim you can see it with the eye blink, but if you're having to check out eye blinks on people to determine if they're AI or not, we're already in a world of pain, right?
True.
And they'll say, okay, we got to get the eye blinks down, right? And we got to get those better. The other thing is they can't stop the flow of information. So what they appear to be doing is flooding us with information so that we can't filter it fast enough.
True.
And so that on a daily basis, we see things that would be, well above the Watergate bar scandalous that they just go right by. We don't even pay attention to them anymore. So in some sense, they've numbed us to the point where I see articles like I'm not even going to read it. I haven't read much about, for example, the Fauci papers, which I suspect are not as exciting as some people would like them to be. They could be a big distraction, so we're not talking about Iran, things like that. But it's a real problem separating fact from fiction and sifting the facts. It's like you're in the 1849 gold rush and you're panning for gold, and you're getting little specks of gold out of a big pan load of silt. And I'm wearing out a little bit trying to do this. This is I'm being more selective. I'm picking topics and sort of going down those threads and letting everything else go by.
Well, I love your reference fact, and that was one of the questions that I had. What is a fact? It seems humanity solved information scarcity by creating bullshit abundance. The information age somehow ended with everybody knowing everything and nobody knowing what is true. Dave, you are a scientist. Science ultimately depends upon observing reality accurately. What happens to civilization when the ability to establish a mutually accepted fact starts disappearing?
It's a real problem. The first person to kind of state that to me turned out to be a woman named Diana West, and she said that we no longer have mutually agreed upon fundamental ideas, right? And that also gets at the question of, the sort of opening the southern border and Europe opening its borders and stuff like that, is that you're not just bringing in immigrants, you're bringing in people who have no mutually shared understanding of who we are. And so people always say, we're a nation of immigrants. What are you talking about? I go, well, we're a nation of immigrants when we were expanding westward and had unlimited real estate. All we needed was manual labor and sacrificial lambs to go out there and fight Indians, because that's what it was going to be all about. And so you could take someone from anywhere and say, look, just go west, young man, and that did it. Now we're talking about putting puzzle pieces into a puzzle, and we do not need vast numbers of unskilled people flooding into our country. It's not a country. It's not an economy that has a big use for unskilled labor.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, along those lines, I'm so glad you brought that up. I wanted to ask your opinion today of the automation replacement trend. Currently, AI systems for desk jobs or customer service jobs. I mean, we're in a world where there are virtually no human translators remaining. Almost all translation is automated at this point. And that's expanding. But what about the physical labor that you were just talking about? Because the robotics companies who are trying to attract investment, of course, they're painting, very rosy picture of $2 an hour, robot labor. Seems like a pipe dream to me, because all those robots need motors, and all those motors need dysprosium out of China or whatever. You know what I mean? But what's your take on the how realistic is this idea that robots are going to take over human labor, or on what timeline?
Well, I think in many cases they will. I think that's probably an unstoppable force, right? One of the things that I've been laboring over is why make robots look like humans. It's not obvious to me. We evolved to have this bipedalism and two hands and things like that. And they're smart enough to actually create robots that look like humans, in which the neck can spin around 360 degrees. That somehow evolutionarily that didn't work for us. But if you were designing robots to do specific tasks, which I don't think you want in one of these all-purpose robots. I don't think I think you're going to design robots for, like, there's already robots that do bricklaying and things like that. So,
Right.
so that robot's not going to be bipedal. There's no reason why that robot needs fingers, right? So I have several thoughts on that. One is that they're showing robots that look like that because, much the way they sold us the desire to go to the moon is the way they obscured what they really had was a desire to build huge, unbelievable weaponry, right? So the moon was the cover story.
Yeah.
I think the bipedal robots are a bit of a cover story because they capture our imagination.
But a cover story for what exactly?
More military shit. Yeah, the kind of. I saw a robot, Terminator type stuff, but there's no reason why. Why bipedalism, right? Bipedalism is a remarkably difficult thing to achieve, which served a purpose, but it was also something that evolved from an organism that didn't have a lot of, you're not building it from scratch, right? We didn't evolve from nothing. We didn't come out of the ooze bipedal. We came from quadrupedal. And,
the evolution
figured out that says, okay, we don't get to change the structure that much, but if we could get this guy to tip up a little bit, and look across and see across the savannah and say, holy shit, there's a lion over there. Let's stay away from that guy, right? And we hit the savannas quickly. So we really had to stand up straight, which gave us bad backs and women who died in pregnancy and things like that.
Yep. But I think, that's also caloric efficiency of travel, right, was key to bipedalism. And that's something that the AI and the robots are all very concerned about is the power consumption. Power density. I mean, you as an organic chemist, you must be really fascinated by the new battery chemistry that keeps coming out. Are you tracking any of that, the sodium ion?
Well, ironically, so I the last 40 years of my career, I had a bunch of jumps in my career early, but then I finally said, okay, you better plant a flag somewhere, dude. It was lithium chemistry. And
really?
Yeah, it turns out I think beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's one of the top 5 organic lithium chemists in the world. I believe it's also true that I helped usher in what I consider to be a serious renaissance in organosodium chemistry. And Grok even gave me credit for that.
That's great.
And recognized they were talking to me. Grok said, it's you, dude.
Wow.
And there's others. So if they're listening to this, I don't mean to take away your contribution, but I dug into sodium, and it turns out that the most surreal thing is organic chemists are always looking for problems to solve, right? And they've sort of migrated across the periodic table, looking what can we do with samarium and boron and things like that. They're just trying to find a niche, a place to plant your flag and make a name. And sodium got ignored, and it's the cheapest metal by far. If you buy a 100-pound bag of sodium chloride, the most expensive part's the bag.
Yeah.
And yet organic chemists had ignored sodium for forever. The most recent real serious sodium chemistry was done in the 40s. And
wild.
And it is wild. And so when we went into it, I thought, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to discover why the empiricists, the guys who just, stumble their way into new areas by chance, well, why not? Let's try this. Who cares? I figured we were going to discover why sodium was ignored, as in solubility and stability, various problems that just made it technically a pain. And we didn't find any of them. It works beautifully. And it's dirt cheap. I mean, sodium's a tiny percentage the cost of lithium.
And the natural abundance of sodium, right?
Yeah,
it's just off the charts, even in North America.
Yeah. By the way, did you read that best-selling book, Salt? It's called Salt. It's a best-selling book called Salt.
Oh well, I'll have to check it out.
And it turns out that it talks about the history of salt and global trade and, preservation. When we didn't have refrigerators, you just salted fish. And so you finish that book of salt, you know how to salt every kind of fish.
Oh, wow.
And I grew up in Syracuse, which is called the Salt City, because at one point it was the globally dominant provider of salt.
See, so your research is really key, because one of the things that's happening, for example, let's take China. Because of this war in the Middle East, China is trying to completely get as far away from dependence on hydrocarbons as they can. And that's why they're building out so much solar and so much wind, and also, by the way, rapidly constructing nuclear. Right. Like they can build a nuke plant in 5 years, where we take 14 years. But the sodium. Yeah, right. If that. Yeah. The sodium that you worked on, I'm sure that a lot of their breakthroughs are built standing on the shoulders of your work. And the sodium is what's going to take their power and grid shift it to where they don't need nearly as much in terms of hydrocarbons. Like they can. No. Sodium is just for the battery. So it doesn't. Yeah, just the battery. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not a source. It's not a source of energy. No. It's a storage. But also my work is not battery oriented. So I have one student who does lithium battery work. One PhD student graduated, went off into lithium batteries. But the stuff we do is more about they're super reactive species. And so my last 6 or 7 students went off to big cap pharma. Where they use this stuff. I was just referring to the sodium ion battery ability to handle, let's say, 30,000 charge discharge cycles.
Right.
And that the batteries can be cooled passively, no active cooling, because they have a much higher temperature range. They're less dense in terms of watt hours per cubic meter, so they kind of tend to dissipate.
Or per gram.
Yeah, exactly. So I was thinking that maybe some of your research, was
conceivable. I'll tell you why. It might. The other thing, this is a mixed bag for me. 40 years ago, we started studying the role of solvent, which is what you dissolve everything in, right? Turpentine's a solvent, gasoline's a solvent, isopropanol's a solvent. They're all solvents. Organic chemists run reactions in solvents.
Yeah.
And no one had ever studied solvation as a molecular phenomenon. It's always a bulk thing. It's always a bulk thing, right? The property of turpentine, the property of hexane, the property of these solvents. But no one said, what is happening at the absolute molecular level? And we started studying that. And we made great progress, I think. As I look back, my program's now gone. As I said, we wrapped it up about 1.5 years ago. And so I'm looking back and reflecting, and I think we're essentially the only group who did that.
Wow.
And on the one hand, it's really cool. On the other hand, I go, why? Why didn't people look and see what I was doing by studying salvation? We could tell you exactly what was happening. We could say, look, when this lithium-based reagent does its chemistry, it brings 2 more solvents onto the lithium to do the chemistry. We can really describe it at that level of resolution.
By the way, you might want to tell people what salvation means before.
Well, salvation is where if you have a metal ion that's in solution, the molecules that's dissolved in are actually clinging to it. And so they stick to it, like polywogs sticking to the shore. They stick to it. They bond to it, and you can count them. And there's often a very well-defined number. It's not just a metal ion in a soup. It really has this whole structure to it. And in organolithium chemistry, no one had really studied that. They get crystal structures and stuff like that, and you can actually use mass spec to study it at some level.
Cool.
And so we studied it. And on the one hand, it was great news because it worked well. On the other hand, I'm looking at the world going, okay, so there's another 80 metals in the periodic table. They all do all their chemistry and solvent too. I can't see evidence that anyone noticed that we could study how salvation works. And say, we could actually do this when we're looking at palladium chemistry. And how maybe the solvent's playing an important role in the chemistry of the palladium that we're not noticing because you just bathe it in it, right? So you don't know what it's doing. And so I have this odd sort of mixed emotion about the overall impact of my program, because it
seems
worked
like
well, but no one else followed.
Your kind of program is the kind of thing that I think government grants, which really drive much of the research, as you well know.
It did, at least.
It seems like our government, if they were wise, they would have put a lot of grant money in your kind of program, your area of expertise.
They did.
Okay. And let me mention one more thing, and then Todd. I'm sorry, Todd. We're already geeking out on the chemistry side and the table.
Totally nerding out on the table of elements.
But see, Trump established, what did he call it? Project Vault, which was trying to acquire all these relatively rare earth, rare elements, or stockpiles of cobalt or copper or whatever. And I'm thinking sometimes the solution is to just change the chemistry to sodium. You know what I mean? Like in certain cases, like, because in the sodium batteries, you don't need copper and cobalt and zinc and these other things, or lithium, obviously.
Right. The problem with the sodium batteries is they're heavy.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to have a sodium battery based car, I don't think. I could be wrong, but sodium weighs about 4 times what lithium weighs per electron released into the circuit.
Yeah, there's a sodium ion dump truck that makes sense. They've got that running because slow and heavy.
But it's probably still just a beta test, right? It's probably because you'd probably say, yeah, but let's do this with lithium because it still weighs a lot less.
Yeah,
but maybe the weight of the dump truck is so great that the weight of the sodium doesn't matter. My dump truckology is not up to speed.
Well, let me just put an end cap on this for what's called grid shifting, just grid scale energy storage that just sits on the ground and doesn't move.
That would be good for sodium.
It's great. Yeah, it's a game changer, I think.
We tried to hire a woman who ended up going to Caltech instead, much to my dismay, who was going into sodium batteries when it was not yet cool. It would have been a good hire. I'm very impressed by her. And so I think there will be a lot of sodium batteries. Supposedly, the South Koreans have a sodium silver battery combo, I think.
Yeah, Samsung's coming out with, they're going to make those next year.
That's right, Samsung, yeah. So they are going to make them in production?
Yeah, production starts in 27, they say.
I didn't know that.
Samsung bought a Mexican silver mine to all the silver output
just
from
because
that
of
mine.
That battery.
Just for that battery.
Wow.
So Doomberg, who I know who he is, other people do too, but I had to figure it out. From things he told me about his chemistry background, I was able to pinpoint him right down to his name. I'm going to actually see him this fall, so I'm pretty sure he'll tell me who he is officially there. But we had a long chat. One of the things he says is that battery technology is never done by a startup. Some startup who says we've got to do batteries says don't save your money. It never works that way. And he says, and it's never a big breakthrough. It's incremental. He says every single battery change is just one step forward from the existing technology.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. But okay, I'm sorry, Todd, I'm apologizing to you because I know you have questions and I'm kind of hogging the show at the moment, but I just bought a pallet of dirt cheap solar panels made in Turkey. That's only like 40 cents per watt.
Wow.
Did I have that right? Yeah. Like 40 cents a watt. And so on the front end, the solar panels are dirt cheap at this point. It's the batteries that are now clearly the economically limiting factor to more people going off grid. But the battery chemistry keeps now leaping forward over the last 2 years in ways that are really impressive. Like you just mentioned Samsung. And there's, Cadle and BYD and all these Chinese companies. It's like, I'm excited about it, but.
So how much silver are they going to consume per year?
I don't have the answer to that. I've tried to find out. Don't know.
Watch platinum, by the way. People ask me what good idea do you have investing? The only good one I have is platinum. Their above ground supply is about enough to satisfy the deficit production for about a year and a half, supposedly. Wow. So at current rate of production and current rate of consumption, we will be out of platinum.
But Dave, we have to file that under the category of when will shortages matter in real life, right? It's the oil question.
I
too.
wish I knew. And I wrote about the subprime crisis in 2002.
There you go.
So when they say so and so saw it coming, I know 10,000 people who saw it coming. Right?
Yes.
The idea that one person saw it coming is ridiculous. Anyone with a half a brain who's paying attention goes, "Wait a minute! They just gave that chick with no income 125% mortgage. This is going to be a problem, right?" But I wrote about it in 2002, and it was, I think Josh Rosner was the guy who was writing about it maybe in the late 90s, saying there's the subprime world starting to get kind of dicey.
Yeah.
And then it took 5 years.
Yes.
Right. And I remember in 2007, I told my class, I tend to tell tangential stories because I'm a tangential thinker, I'm told. I whipped around to the class without warning and said, "I think the banking system is about to collapse." I mean, I just flat out to the ground, you won't be able to get money, that sort of thing. And that was March of 2007. And then I watched, I'm going, why is the market not seeing it? I don't understand. Like when COVID showed up and it became clear we were going to lock down and we were going to shut down the global economy, and the market just ignored it. Now that was only a matter of weeks. But I'm going, I can see this economy is going to get put in an induced coma.
Yeah.
And the market's not selling. And then about 3 or 4 weeks later, it sold. But that should have been a microsecond. I mean, that should have been fast. And then, of course, the absurd part was at the end of 2013, with the entire global economy in an induced coma. And I don't use that phrase lightly. There's actually a Marxist economist named Viggi, I think his name is, who said he actually thought that they actually put the economy in a coma, an induced coma, to give them a chance to heal some serious fundamental problems. Remember the repo spikes and stuff like that. And he thought it was intentional. He thought the lockdown was an intentional way to shut down the whole system, just put it on a real flatline basis. And then at the end of what was clearly one of the worst years imaginable for the global economy, the S&P was up 13%. I go, I don't know what to do with this. Right? This is just stupid. So
I'm right there with you. All right, Todd. I've hogged the show a little bit here. My apologies.
No worries.
You have the better questions. I keep getting excited about what Dave is talking about, and I keep jumping in. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hey, man, that's why. You are Johnny Carson and I'm Ed McMahon, and I totally defer to your nerding out because
I'm the orangutan. I'm the orangutan.
Yeah. So I have 2 comments and then a question that I think is relevant. And the comments go from what you talked about like 15 minutes ago, I think. But just trying to be funny, you were talking about salvation. So
salvation, yeah.
Yep. Salvation.
Salvation's the thing you'll need after the crisis.
What that told me was that sodium chemists, they have a Lord and Savior called Polywog for their salvation. Sorry, guys.
Well, that's why I said salvation, because it's salvation. But anyway, whatever.
Salvation. Yeah. And I did want to comment that when you were talking about bipedal, and robots and everything, C3PO did have a personal pronoun. C3PO did self-identify as bipedal. So I just wanted to get that out there. No, but while we have you, because you're a sodium expert, I just want to know, the white coats tell all of us that sodium is bad for us and our bodies and everything. I would love for you to unpack. Is that true? Should we just limit our sodium? Or I have heard otherwise that, you know what? Sodium is really important.
Well, you're about to change departments in the university, Dave. You got to go over
I was a genetics major as an undergrad, so I have quite a bit of biochem.
Okay.
But I haven't used it for 45 years, so there's that. 48 years. I find that nutritional science is one of the sloppiest of them all. You're taking an organism that's complex, not just complicated, but complex, not understandable. You tug over here, something happens over there. You don't know what you did. And And so, for example, the statins, right? They say if your cholesterol gets too high, then you should smack it with statins, which I am violently opposed to now.
Me too. I saw your tweets about that, by the way.
Yeah, I was pretty pissed off at the statin crowd by then. And what they don't tell you is that there's a reason your body has cholesterol. And one of the things that happens if you step on the cholesterol the way statins do is that you will get dementia.
Yep.
And you'll get swelling in your limbs, you'll get lower extremity pain, severe pain. There's people who don't. But I did a poll at one point, frustrated not knowing the magnitude of this problem. So like 62% of the people who'd been put on statins had bad side effects. And the worst is the dementia because you don't know it because for one thing, you're demented. But I had people saying, they put my wife on statins and 2 years later, she's in a wheelchair, things like that. And
statins also destroy cellular energy production, ATP.
Right.
It's just death. It just puts it turns some cells into just, zombie cells, senescent cells. It's really, in some people, like you said, and you don't know until the person starts taking it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you're a lab rat every single time. And I think modern medicine ran out of low-lying fruit. So we got penicillin and we got a few antibiotics and a few antivirals and things like that. But they ran out of things to do, so they started making shit up.
Yep.
And they started aiming for maintenance drugs instead of curing drugs. And the maintenance drugs are great because for them, they get to sell it to you for the rest of your life, which albeit might be 10 years shorter than it should have been, but they still get to sell it to you for the rest of your life. And by the way, after the vaccine got released and the problem started showing up, and I dug deep into the COVID vaccine problem. I was in a Zoom group of doctors that invited me in, and for about 3 years we met twice a week. And the side effects of those vaccines are going to be with us for many, many years. And one of which is the cancer, the spike in cancer rates. I've got a lump on my tongue right now I'm going to have looked at, and maybe it was the vaccine, maybe it wasn't, who knows. But and Pfizer supposedly ran around buying up a whole bunch of small cap anti-cancer companies that had important leads on cancer, and so they scooped them up. So it's like, okay, let's give everyone the vaccine, let's give them cancer, and then let's treat the cancer, that sort of thing.
Repeat business, man. Apparently,
it is repeat business.
It's good for the economy.
And I don't know if you saw these tweets, but my wife was on SNRIs for about 15 years at a high dose for reasons that were optional. It wasn't for depression. She has a chronic pain problem. They said, well, some reason to believe. Well, some reason to believe. Turns out what I will tell you is it would be easier to get off a crack addiction.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it's horrific. And I dug deep after she tried, and it turned into a total disaster. I mean, she was a complete mess. And she ended up going back on them. She said, look, I'm 75 years old. I can spend the next 10 years detoxing off these things, or I can just take them. And so she had to go back on them. And there was even a chance she wouldn't return back to sort of a seemingly normal health. There was one doc who said, look, some percentage of people don't go back to normal. So we had her in doctor's office, and she was on death's door. And I have yet to run into a person who went off these things who didn't say that they ruined their lives.
Wow. It's
really that bad. People said minimum. It takes minimum a calendar year to get off these. Minimum.
Unreal.
And people are talking about how as you taper them, you have to taper it slower and slower. So you start at maybe 200 milligrams, you go to 150, 100, that sort of thing. By the end, you're down to 10 milligrams, 9 milligrams. They were opening capsules and counting the goddamn particles to take each day. Yeah, that's wow. And there are people who said, look, I've been off them for 10 years and I'm still fucked up.
Wow.
I'm still fucked up.
Well,
so then she wait a minute, one more punchline here. She goes back on them and she recovers, which is great. I didn't even tell her that she might not recover.
Right.
And I think her life expectancy was under a year at the rate we're going, without filling in the details of why.
Oh my.
And about a week after it appears, oh, look, we got away with this one. Okay, we're back on it, but at least she's happy again, and that sort of thing. I developed vertigo. And I think I kind of have it under control, but I had to get out of the car and get something out of the back seat of the car, and my wife was in the car, and all of a sudden I go, oh, dizzy, 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 and I sort of rise up from the car, and I just fell flat on my ass.
Wow.
And that was an hour and a half ago, and
Wow.
which was part of the challenge of getting home. And
Getting on this interview.
to get to this interview, yeah. And so I there's a thing called the Epley maneuver, which I think does work. And
I was just going to
have
bring up that very point, but I had to look up the name. You nailed it. Epley maneuver.
Epley,
Yes.
yeah.
I've actually talked to people who have used that very successfully.
What is it?
Well, the theory is that the vertigo comes from, there's calcium crystals that are stuck to these hair-like materials in your ear that are part of your hearing. And if one of these crystals gets released and it gets into the canals, the part of the ear where, what's it called? The part of the canals where the part of the ear where it's your gyroscope. It's basically
right.
Your gyroscope is. And then the fluid doesn't flow right, and all of a sudden you've got vertigo, because the fluid flowing tells you whether you're upside down or right side up.
Wow.
And so it gets in there, and all of a sudden you can't get your balance. And so what this thing is where you literally sit on the bed, you lay back, you put your head at a 15-degree angle back, turning it to the left for 30 seconds. Then you turn it to the right for 30 seconds, and then you roll to your right and turn it downwards for 30 seconds, and then you sit up with it still to the right for 30 seconds, and that does one side. And what you're doing is you're moving the crystal through the various canals to get it back to where it's supposed to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, mine has improved, and I can't say that there's causation, but I can say that I've been doing the Epley maneuver for about a week and a half.
Interesting. See,
Some say it happens immediately, and others say, no, you got to do it for a while.
I've had people have it clear immediately, but I guess that would be maybe a single larger particle that
potentially. So I might have like a debris field in there, right? It could be like you're collecting silt.
Oh man.
And not all the doctors know about it. So we have a person who cleans our house, and his wife has terrible vertigo, has had it for years. And I said to his mom, I said, ask Sean if he's familiar with the Epley procedure. I want to know what his response was. And so I finally got to talk to him, and he was frustrated because he'd been through so much with this vertigo problem. But it was clear to me he wasn't taking me seriously. And I said to his mom, I said, look, this thing takes 3 minutes a day for a couple of weeks, maybe. And if she hasn't tried it, it would be a shame to find out 10 years from now that it could have been solved with this 3 minute. There it is, right there.
We're showing the image. Yeah,
there it is. So see those canals there?
Yep.
If you get a crystal in one of those canals, what you got to do is you got to work it through the canal and get it back out of there.
Yep.
And and then he told me, he says, oh, I read about it. I said, no, go on YouTube and watch a video of the procedure. It's trivial. It is trivial. So anyone who has vertigo, you got to search the Epley procedure. Go on YouTube. My brother, his wife had it, said it worked like a champ.
Wow, great.
And said said watch about 3 or 4 of these videos and then figure out where they all agree and do that. Right? Because there's slight variations.
That is so cool. That I mean, I did not expect you were going to bring up the Epley maneuver in our conversation today, and I wish there was a movement for retarded people to fix
bring the R word back, by the way. I'm with you on that. Bring the R word back.
Yeah. So like, we live in a society where people are not processing information in any kind of rational or intelligent way. Or, I mean, obviously that's a very generalized statement, but there are many, many members of society that are not processing the way that the masses could process in the 1970s, the 1960s, the 1950s. And I believe, even as a person who uses AI all the time, I think that peak Western civilization cognition was between about 1955 and 1975, frankly. That's what I think. But what's your take on this? Because we're living in idiocracy.
Well, what I will tell you is that academics faces a serious problem because we're trying to teach the students and for example, I was going to teach a course, we have a freshman writing seminar that the idea is you learn to write, and they offered 100 different courses. So every freshman has to take it for 2 semesters. You pick any subject you want. You can pick Dostoevsky, you can pick sciences, literature, art, history, whatever, but you got to write.
Yeah.
That's it. You got to write. And so that it's trying to engage you in writing on a subject that you like. And I was going to teach a personal finance course. I figure freshman year, teach about what it means to save, what mathematical flaw in the Roth IRA, which I've given talks on, things like that. But also, sort of how the markets work and what valuation actually means, things like that, and how much a car actually costs to own, and how much a house actually costs to own, and things like that. I could create a semester course. And then ChatGPT showed up and said, "There's no way I'm going to grade a bunch of papers written by computers."
Yeah, absolutely. I've joked. I know some people who just graduated from MBA programs. I said, "You mean MBA ChatGPT?"
Right. And the problem is the evidence is strong that you don't learn from just putting together a ChatGPT paper and reading it.
No, this is a different process.
You learn from writing. You learn, like Tucker and I talked about that a lot, where it's the process of writing, the process of talking.
Yeah.
The process of communicating the idea is what solidifies the idea. Academics, we have to figure out how to teach these kids under a whole new set of rules.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Jonathan Turley one day, right? The god of constitutional scholarship. This guy should be on the Supreme Court. I asked him, "Are you near it?" He said, "No, I'm getting older and the appointments are getting younger." But he made some reference in class about doing stuff in class or testing them in ways. I said, but it's not just about catching them. We got to find a way to teach them differently. And so I actually do that. I'm teaching courses fall, and they will do problems in class, and they will solve problems in class, and such that if they don't study out of class, they'll still be okay.
You know,
Hey, Mike?
Yeah, go ahead, Todd. Yeah, what's is that?
Well,
a new hat?
It's a hat, decentralized
Cool.
TV, Mike. But I'm thinking now, because I have a new suggestion for a new red hat. I made the suggestion in one of our recent interviews for Muga, which is making uncles great again. But after speaking with Dave, just 5 minutes ago, I think Muruga is our next hat in the line, which is making retard great again.
Murga. Sounds like a vaccine.
Yeah, it does. Better than mRNA.
That's what's called a dad joke.
Yes, it is.
Very true.
Wait till the after party.
Did you have a question, Todd?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
go
do.
for it.
Our program, decentralized TV, is dedicated to decentralized living. So, Dave, in your view, going back to your essays and all of your experience annually predicting the future and such, what ordinary household decision made today will look genius in 2030?
And thank you
don't
for
buy
bringing us back on
SpaceX.
topic, too, by the way.
Don't buy SpaceX shares.
Well said. Mic drop right there.
That's great.
When I was a kid, my dad was a contractor, and we sat around the kitchen table talking. And that's the advantage. Everyone has a different start in life. And if you are so lucky as to have a guy, he not only ran the company, but he was the president of New York State Builders Exchange. So he was really connected. He used to have to negotiate with labor unions. So he understood economics at the ground level. And I learned so much from him. And I remember one time having a chat with him. And the fact that I remember this means keep talking to your teenagers, because you might think they're not listening, but they are. And I said to him, so let me see if I got this right. If you bought real estate in the 30s, you could get rich. And he said, yes, but no one had any money. And that stuck. And once I started studying markets in earnest, I realized, well, okay, you have to have money at the bottom, which means you have to have money at the top. which means you can't be clinging to those bubbles and say, well, I'll get out when the time comes, because you're not going to have money, because you're going to ride it down and you're going to be broke like everybody else. And so I realized that you have to patient. You want to catch the middle 80%. You want to miss the 80% down. You want to catch the 80% up. And so one day I was sitting on a U.S. Air flight. I was reading the U.S. Air magazine. I just told this story for the first time in many, many years, where the U.S. Air magazine said, "Are you saving enough for retirement?" Now, Cornell was putting in 10%. I had just bought a house on a professor's salary after my first year, so I didn't have a lot of cash. So the answer was kind of not as much as I could, I guess, because I was house rich, cash poor. And then they said, "Here's what you do." And they said, put away 1% of your income the first year, and then put away 2% the second year, and 3% the third year. And so I sort of ramped up through that. And within a very short number of years, I was putting away 25% of my net, with Cornell's help, 25% of my gross income. And I think you save for retirement and you invest to beat inflation.
Mm.
And so and the other thing is if you can, I once did a calculation of a 5 percentile guy. Now, who's a 5 percentile? A guy who earns his top 5 percentile earnings, top 5 percentile savings. He's going to be a boomer, because you don't get to there, except for the very extreme case, until you're older and have saved a ton, right? The 5 percentile guys are going to be dominated by boomers. And it turns out the top 5 percentile guy made $156K the year that I did it, and had 1.1 million savings. Now, I talked to Stephen Roach about this. He said, well, actually, it's more like 700,000 a year, including real estate. But I gave him the real estate. I said, let's pretend that's investable. And I did the math. I said, so if this guy's a boomer and he retires using conventional portfolio theory, he can take about $45,000 a year out of the bank when he retires. And I go, this guy doesn't know how to live on $45,000 a year.
Right.
So a 5 percentile guy who, in theory, is supposed to be living the American dream is going to get crushed.
Right.
Is going to get crushed. And so if you can save a higher percentage, and if you were a good saver, you would have more than a top 5 percentile earner would have more than 1.1 million.
Well, let me ask you this then.
And you'd actually be able to live on less.
Let me ask you this. You say save for retirement, invest to beat inflation.
Right.
Can you tell me which bucket in buying precious metals belongs in? Would that be
that's the inflation
or invest? Okay.
Well, it's both. I mean, what you're trying to do is someone said it recently, said it's very difficult to send money to the future, real wealth to the future. That's the challenge. You're saying, if I put $1,000 away this month, how do I send that to myself 30 years from now? And you, A, have to not spend it. You got to get it in the bucket. And then B, it has to at least track inflation, ideally make more money. Now, a lot of people have this unbelievably distorted reality that they think they're going to make 10, 11, 12% a year.
Right.
Every year. And if you ask Warren Buffett, he will tell you 4%. And he doesn't include taxes. He does include fees. And then a guy named Rob Arnell, 8-time Graham Dodd Award winner, said 3.8%. If you track the equity markets, this is a stunning statistic. A guy named Ryan Grice does this, runs the chart store. You track the S&P 500 over 100 years using the M2 money supply as your inflation metric, not CPI, because we know that's a load of crap.
Yep.
You use M2 money supply as a tracking for inflation. It went down. It trickles down. If you then include dividends and stuff, it goes up at about 3.78%, which does not include fees and taxes.
Well, 20 years from now, which occupies the larger share of global reserve portfolios? Bitcoin, Bitcoin or gold?
I personally have no bet on Bitcoin. Now, I boldly made an asshole of myself without being not afraid of that, by the way, without being a douchebag about it, but actually saying
that's a personal pronoun, so it's okay.
Yeah. And in 2011, I went on Lauren Lister's show on capital accounts, which was that's like Tucker now, right? That was a big show. And she asked me about Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was trading at $10. And I said, no, thank you. So I'm on record saying no, thank you to Bitcoin at $10. I have a tweet from a guy who said that from way back when, where he said, I bought Bitcoin at 50 cents. I sold it at $3. It's now $8. Boy, I can't forgive myself. And I'm going, oh, that guy's been going through a lot of therapy over the years, or has killed himself, right?
We all have.
But I still don't fully believe the Bitcoin story enough that people say, well, just buy a little. I go, how's that going to help me?
Right.
A little's not good. You got to commit to it. You have to marry an investment. You actually have to marry the investment. So I was buying gold at $270 an ounce, but in a closed-end fund that was 28% below NAV. So it's around $220 an ounce. It was Central Fund of Canada in 1999. And it's up like 15 to 20 fold. I'd have to do the math, but it's up a lot. The reason it's worked well is because I didn't sell it.
Right. Yeah.
And the reason people got stinking rich off Microsoft is because they didn't sell it. And the reason people got their ass kicked on WorldCom is because they didn't sell it.
Well, Dave,
great point.
I would say that I think it has always been rational to suspect the ability of Bitcoin to hold value in the long run, no matter what its price is, because it only has, a few intrinsic properties. I mean, obviously, it's easy to send and receive, and it's supposed to be decentralized, but almost all those have now been neutralized. It's mostly centralized.
They
now.
have.
And it's not anonymous.
And it's not It's not anonymous at all.
That's right.
That's the real problem.
It's a transparent
that's a real
blockchain.
Problem.
So I think that's rational. In fact, I think buying and holding metals, gold and silver, will always, at least in our lifetimes, make more sense than betting on any crypto project. And crypto has uses like private crypto in particular, right? It has certain uses for anonymity.
It's a technology. It's a technology. Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, hey, Dave, we're almost out of time here, and I want to value your time, and also I know you're famous for 3-hour marathons, but we didn't schedule that today, so I want to make sure we give credit to you and your X handle. I've got your X page up here. Can you just tell people your X account?
It's David B. Collum, and it's a mix of there it is right there. And it's a mix of comments about Charlie Kirk and comments. I've actually taken some Israel bashing after the Zionists went at me last year for making a totally innocuous statement, and so now I'm pissed at them. And puppy videos and attacking the Fed and putting out little tidbits. Like one day I put out that how much Dell computer has risen in price since 2016, and Michael Dell jumped in on me, which was funnier than hell.
Oh yeah.
And so my tweet, yeah, I know. I think you must be bored, Mike. That's all you really got to be bored here. And so it's an eclectic mix of craziness. And it's like a mood ring. I just post whatever I'm reading. And
well,
I post a lot of YouTubes that I muscle through and say, okay, this is a good YouTube, because we're inundated with YouTubes.
True.
So
yeah.
So your battle for eyeballs is non-trivial.
Well, and I follow your account. I find a lot of value in your posts, and I want to thank you. One day you actually gave me kudos for my analysis of the fertilizer shortage, the famine. Right. The famine shortage. I appreciate that.
You're not alone on that theory. You're not alone on that theory either. No. You aren't now. There's. By the way, what do you think of Warsh? I think Warsh is going to kick our ass.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. I completely agree. He's not going to hold a line.
He's been appointed to kick our ass.
All the myths about Warsh standing up against what Trump wants. I don't think that's going to come true.
Did you misspeak with what Trump wants or with what Netanyahu wants?
So Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a difference?
I'm thinking not.
Well, okay. Anyway, Dave, again, I thank you for your time. It's an honor to meet you. I'm really intrigued by all your areas of expertise and your analysis of things, which I value. And, sometimes we may all come at things from a different angle. It's totally okay. And all three of us, we will upgrade our views based on new data that comes in as well. So that's just a normal, that's how it works. But I really value you and your input, and I thank you for your time today. It's been a lot of fun to get to meet you finally.
Well, it was fun. That's why I do these. Meet people.
Dave, I have an idea, Mike. Is Dave releases this year in review, and perhaps when you release the next one, we could have you back on to be able to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a busy time of year for me. I let that thing go, and it's like
I bet
it's like a cluster bomb.
All right. Well, we'll just reach out to you and to find out when you are available in 2027.
Perfect.
If you want to come on and talk about that at that time, or if you've got something else pressing before then,
or
reach
I'm
out
dead,
to us.
Right? Some turbo cancer took me down, but.
No,
I gave Rudy Habenstein my password during COVID and said, if I die, you have to take my Twitter feed and post tweets from heaven.
That's perfect. Well, we'd love to see those too. So, but not anytime soon. Yeah,
that's right.
Not anytime soon. Just when appropriate. Keep us posted. It's hard to make the Wi-Fi work from the cloud computing of heaven.
Well, but you can imagine some very funny tweeting, especially if you knew that the guy was dead.
Right.
And these tweets keep coming.
Yeah, that's true.
Charlie Kirk's team is blowing this. They could have Charlie tweeting from heaven saying, by the way, there's nothing but Israelis up here, and they could pretend like, heaven's filled with the good guys.
They could funnel all their heaven tweets straight to Candace and let her run
That's
them.
right.
That's
make
right. Even more of
which could get exciting this week if she does that debate.
That could get exciting. Or we could all watch the WNBA with the new biological men slamming down.
Great. No. Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham, my new favorite athlete.
I love that. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
That by the way, is kayfabe. They've teed that up. Between,
of course they have. Yeah.
That Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham didn't end up on the same team by chance.
Yeah.
This is roller derby. This is professional wrestling.
I love
it. They're doing a good job. They're doing a good job.
Yep.
Great job.
All right. Well, Dave, have a great rest of your day. And thank you again for joining us. And we look forward to talking in the future.
Adios.
Thank you, Dave.
Take care. All right. That was Dave Collum, everybody. Wow. What an amazing conversation. Todd and I will be right back after this break with the after party discussion. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Cheers.
If you'd like to help support us, check out all of the affiliate deals I put together for you at rangerdeals.com. And if you go there, you'll see I've done due diligence on all of these affiliates. There's really not that many, but we have partners like Battalion Metals, co-founded by Tucker Carlson, Nessa's organic CBDA hemp extract, Above Phone models that are de-Googled phones, Red Life, here's the peptide company, Limitless, Petmectin, and so much more, including the satellite phone store, VP.net. And for almost all of these, you can use discount code RANGER here, or sometimes it's something else like Brighteon 50, but normally the discount code is RANGER, which will save you something on these deals. Now, we do earn a little bit off of these affiliate deals, but it's no additional cost to you, and it helps support our platform and our work for humanity, including our AI projects that offer free open source knowledge in multiple languages. You can check those out at brightlearn.ai and brightanswers.ai. So thank you for supporting us. Check out rangerdeals.com anytime you want to save money on really high-end products and solutions that I personally endorse. I'm Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. Thanks for watching. All right, welcome back to the after party. You're going to enjoy this segment. By the way, Todd, did you notice behind me during the whole show was chromosomes, genetic code. You see that?
I was so focused on my questions and everything. I was inobservant. But yeah, they're beautiful chromosomes.
They're glowing. Now I have the chromosome model.
Oh, that's sexy.
3D chromosomes.
It looks like a staircase in like a Gone with the Wind film, that just keeps going around and around.
It does, and this is the ugliest. They chose the ugliest colors imaginable. Like this color here is the color of the wild hogs out here in Texas. This is like puke. These are like turd base pairs over here. It's really bad. Like couldn't you have made these shinier or some more pretty?
Can you just hold up the snot pair, please?
The snot pair? There's look at these colors. They're sickening.
Wow.
Puke, that's a puke phosphate right there on the edge of the.
Now, what are you going to use that for, Mike?
Well, this, I'm doing a course on genetic survival.
Right.
And it'll be released for free very soon. By the end of this month is my goal.
I can't wait.
I'm almost done recording it. I've only got 2 chapters left. And I'm going to film some segments here with this as just a teaching tool to show people how your DNA gets damaged through all the different mechanisms: ionizing radiation, nuclear fallout, 5G exposure for non-ionizing radiation, chemical exposure. You know how I hate fragrance chemicals in laundry? Turns out that breaks your DNA too in a more mild way. Yeah.
Can you hold it in front of your face a little bit? Because it's off camera. Yeah, there you go. So
is that better?
Yeah, that's way better. Yep.
Okay. And by the way, what's cool about this model, this is actual size. It's just exactly like this in your lungs. They're just squished. They're just compressed. This is actual size.
That's the actual size for the giants from Genesis 6, the Nephilim.
Yeah, right. Pretty much. Anyway, it's just a teaching tool to show people how DNA is broken, and then how your body repairs it, and then what happens if you don't repair it, which is where most people are today, because the repair mechanisms, there's little maintenance crews that come along and fix everything, like mismatched pairs, missing insertions, deletions, excisions, etc. The repair crew, they have to have the right nutrients, and they have to have cellular energy, and they have to have certain minerals like zinc. And
where does a repair crew learn that trade? Maybe my younger kids can have a job.
Yeah, well, if you think of your cells as citizens in a giant city, city with 37 trillion citizens, because that's about how many cells you have, then the DNA repair crew, these are like the road.
They're never out of work.
Yeah, they're fixing the street lights, they're fixing the roads, they're fixing the bridges. You have those repair crew running around all the time. But if you take statin drugs, like Dave mentioned, if you take statin drugs, your repair crew don't show up for work.
Right.
They don't have the energy.
Yeah.
It screws with your ATP.
Great analogy.
Yeah, really. And then the potholes get worse and worse because the repair crew just lazy ass, and they don't show up, and then all your damage gets worse. And then if you damage your germ cells, in men or women, then the damage becomes heritable. Your offspring are born with the DNA damage that you suffered.
Oh, that's fantastic.
If it hits the germ cells, that is.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's how the rise of the mutants begins. Literally.
That kind of explains a lot.
Yeah, that's where things are going. Oh, and one more thing. The spike protein from the COVID vaccines suppresses your repair maintenance crew by 85 to 90%. So if someone takes the jab and then sheds on you, and if you have a lot of saturation of those foreign spike proteins, your repair mechanisms get suppressed.
Can you explain this shedding thing to me, Mike?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Just because, you can almost go insane thinking that so many people are getting jabbed. And I don't want to fear the boogeyman being somebody next to me in the grocery store.
Well, but
it's shedding on, but it could be.
All right.
I mean,
let me put it this way.
Okay.
We've all watched like crime shows in the past, like CSI or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
And they always have like the DNA evidence collecting person on the show.
Yeah.
And they go to the crime scene. And what do they tell you? There's like the perpetrator's DNA is everywhere. Right? It's on the computer keyboards, it's on the floor, it's on the victim, it's on the knife, it's in right? They're collecting DNA everywhere, right?
Right.
Well, how did that happen? Because they're shedding their own cells constantly. They're shedding normal DNA everywhere. And like they're not making that up on the crime shows. That actually happens.
Okay.
So everywhere you go, you're dropping cells, by the way.
Got it.
Not dropping sick rhymes for your latest rap, but dropping cells with DNA. And then if you have foreign proteins in your cells, because they invade your cells, remember the mRNA instructions are wrapped in lipid nanoparticles to trick your cells into thinking that they're nutrients.
Okay.
So that your cells take them in, and then they invade your cells, they invade your ribosomes, they take over, and you start churning out these foreign non-human proteins. Then you're shedding those, just like you're dropping DNA from your cells constantly 24/7. So shedding is something that's actually very well known. It's in the insert sheets for like chickenpox shots. It will say if you get the chickenpox shot, don't be around immunocompromised people for a period of several days, whatever it says,
Okay.
because you're going to shed on them. You're going to give them chickenpox.
Shed.
That's what the insert. That's what the sheets say. Really, it's just shedding toxins on other people and kind of saturating them with toxic substances.
Just your cells are going to, drop off your body at some point. It's just that if you've had the mRNA vaccine, that those cells now are compromised with those. And are you saying so you can, like they always tried to tell us the lie that we could catch a virus, which you can't, but you're saying that we can catch an mRNA cell.
You can be exposed to toxins.
Okay.
And proteins, that's a very general term that can describe all kinds of morphologies or structures of different, everything from, pathogens to hormones, for example, or structural proteins. But when they say, well, a virus infected this person and made them sick, it's really just a choice of language. You could also say, well, these foreign proteins, this person was exposed to those proteins and they are pathogenic in their effects, or protein fragments, by the way. It doesn't have to be the whole protein. For example, with COVID, it could be like a subunit, the S1 subunit, or pieces of the subunit. These little pieces can be pathogenic themselves. And then your body goes into an inflammatory rush to try to eliminate and detox those pathogenic protein fragments.
Go exosomes.
Yeah, right. And then that's when you have symptoms. You have symptoms. And they say, well, you must be infected. Well, you can be infected with bacteria. You can be infected with mold spores, actually, in certain, like in your lungs, if your immune system is failing, you could have black mold growing in your lungs. That's bad. But when they say a virus infected you, that's just a choice of language. Anyway, we don't have to go into the whole virology thing.
Right. But the good news is for those piece of shedders out there, your course is going to be able to coach people on how to defend against that, I presume?
Absolutely.
Cool.
You can stop the damage from occurring. You can also then rapidly repair the damage before the replication happens. Because your DNA, there's an enzyme called polymerase. When this cell begins to split, mitosis, it splits the double strand. And then you get two individual strands, and then polymerase comes along and replicates each of the two strands to make two double base, two pairs, let's say. And then that begins the splitting of the cell. Well, if you have an error in your DNA and then it comes along and gets replicated, now you have two errors.
Right.
And if
And it compounds.
right, and there are genes in your DNA that are essentially anti-cancer genes that stop your cells from becoming cancerous. But
Okay.
if you suffer a deletion, let's say if this is the anti-cancer gene, I'm simplifying. If you get a deletion of that, then the governor is turned off, and then the cell just replicates and replicates and replicates, and there's no stopping it. Now it's a tumor.
Okay.
And then those
right.
tumors
That
grow out
makes
of control. So if you can fix that problem before you have the DNA lesion,
that's
then you
fascinating.
stop the cancer from ever happening.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Good. I can't wait.
I know it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to get off track, but our guests,
We're gonna do a whole show on that too, by the way.
that'll be a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
you know what's actually cool, Todd, is that you and I bring solutions now. I mean,
Yeah.
you have these solutions in the area of asset survival.
Right.
I'm bringing now the genetic survival component.
It's amazing.
It's always
Yeah.
solution oriented,
It really is. I
Like,
think
you teach people how to save their assets. I teach people how to save their ass. Right.
Mike, are shows like ours inadvertently replacing universities for adult education?
Yeah, because the university is becoming all woke tardy,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
like here in a university, this would self-identify as
Right.
I mean, they wouldn't even teach any kind of principles of biology anymore. They just say you can choose to be whatever biology you want. Okay.
And you know what, Mike? I have to give you a compliment. You have hammered into my mind, at least, that skills are the only asset that nobody can debase.
Ooh. Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
And that's what you teach throughout this show and through your other work, and your own personal demonstration that you have just always focused on developing skills and greater developing your own skills, learning new skills, right?
Oh yeah. For sure.
Because that is almost the best, greatest. I'm thinking this through. I'm wargaming this in my head. That's almost the greatest decentralized strategy possible, right? Is to we all want to make investments, but think about it differently. You're never too old to invest in your own skills.
True. Yeah. Or your own knowledge.
It could not be easier now.
Yeah.
With AI and everything to hone those skills.
Knowledge is free now. All you have to do is ask for it or look
That's
for
right.
it. But you see this screen right here?
Yes,
And you see this microscope right here?
I can.
Yeah. Okay. I know it might be hard to see. Maybe this is in the way, but this is actually doing a live scan of this crystalline structure that has methylene blue dye in it. And it's doing a very large stitching operation for analysis using
Look at
AI
that.
for analysis. Yeah. Now watch, it'll fill in one square at a time. These are tiles. And
Wow.
this was, there, did you see that one fill in? So anyway, this is creating a massive, massive image. It'll be like 30,000 pixels wide, extremely high res.
Yeah.
And I'll be using an AI vision language instrument or I'm sorry, model to analyze this image later
And
on.
will you save that on a 4 megabyte disk, Mike?
Well, I have a thumb drive here. I mean, it's going to be a big file, bigger than
huge
4
file.
megs.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be like 1,000 megabytes. Really, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'll have to see.
No floppy disk to put in your Tandy.
no floppy disk. But anyway, we're going to do some really cool stuff here on the show too. I might film some things separately that I add to the channel, if you don't mind, Todd. Like I'm going to do
Please.
pigment extraction from microalgae, and then we're going to use thin film chromatography to separate the layers of the pigments that are in the microalgae under the microscope, so you can actually see the colors separate. And I mean, there's some really cool stuff coming up.
So fascinating. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I love being your co-host, Mike.
Hey, man, I love having you as a
What people
co-host.
don't realize is that I'm right there with you, viewers. It's like I'm learning every week as I go from wonderful guests, from
Me
Mike,
too.
It's just amazing. And so, we're just happy that you viewers that are watching this, that get to this part of the after party, that you're still here for sure.
And so, look, one of the most important things that you need to know, because knowledge is power. That's what you're really just saying there, Todd, I think.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. Knowledge can save your life following a war or, vaccine shedding or whatever. Knowledge can save your assets, like we were talking about. So go ahead and talk about your website. I'll bring it up.
Sure. Thank you. My575e.com. All I'm going to do is point you there and invite you to come hit Let's Go. You can see it right there and start your journey of figuring out how you can lawfully keep more of what you earn, protect what you have, and decrease your personal liability. And I will tell you that, Mike, ever since that we started talking about it on the show, which was just 3 years ago, I've helped over 700 people acquire this entity. And we have a private Telegram group of over 600 people now, of just incredibly, it's such a wonderful organic group of like-minded people. I would say 99% of them have come through, the exposure has come through this show. And they're just people who are, like one gentleman says, I love repeating it. He's like, I love this group. It's all for one, and we're the one, right? We just stick together, and there are absolute amazing strategies to do everything that I say that these can do. Now, I'm not going to talk about it on the air here with you, Mike. I do my best within the site to educate people. There's a 90-minute video interview with Dennis Gray, who's a subject matter expert on this. He's 83 years old. He's been helping people for 40 years acquire these. I've been at it for 3 years. Mike, before you even allowed me to speak about this, you hired a tax attorney out of California to help you with 6 weeks of due diligence. And suffice it to say, everyone, Mike gave me the thumbs up, and ever since, we've been rocking and rolling on this. But what I encourage most, I will tell you that of those 700 people who have acquired a UNA and now are successfully operating them, most of them actually took the step of booking a private consultation with me through the website to be able to talk about their own operating realities. And that's where I can really give you the strong insights and connect all of the dots on how these work, and more importantly, why they lawfully work. Now, it is $150 for the consultation. It's a half-hour consultation. And I will tell you, though, if you have a sense that you're going to move forward with a UNA, why not? Because you get it back. If you move forward with the UNA, you just deduct that $150 from the investment of the UNA. It's as fair as I can make it, because what I learned when I didn't charge anything for the consultations is, frankly, people didn't show up. So my time is valuable. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, but I also want to mention the kinds of assets that, like, if you own a house or a vehicle or crypto or gold or land, there are so many people who have multiple parcels of land. Some ranchers, for example.
That's right.
That are using UNAs in a very smart way to protect themselves against liability, and in some cases for enhanced privacy. There are many reasons. But if you own things under your name and it's all tied to your social security number, if something bad happens with your car, they can sue and take your house. If something happens with your house, they can take your car or your land. Something happens on your land, people trespass and get hurt, they can sue you and take your house and your car and your gold. It's like you need firewalls between this stuff.
You need to create a strategic structure to where the words are, whoever out there cannot pierce the veil. That's right. And that's what we provide. And I will tell you, I always tell people, if you can just identify one use case where there's an ROI on the investment of this UNA, which, by the way, if you can fog a mirror, you probably can find a use case. If you're a W-2 earner, if you're a 1099 earner, if you stack precious metals, if you go ahead.
There's no ongoing annual cost burden.
There is one. And that is every April 15th, you have to invest in a stamp and a thank you card and send it to me.
Okay, aside from the card, there's no
right.
annual cost
No,
burden.
nothing.
So
Nothing.
it's a
nothing.
one-time deal,
And it's all
done.
created disassociated from you and your
Social.
tax ID number, your
Right.
social number. So think about it this way. This is like hitting Control-Alt-Delete, being in the system. But yet when you receive this, you 100% control this tax ID number where you can open up bank accounts, gold storage accounts, stock brokerage accounts. You can
Crypto
buy property,
accounts,
sell
crypto
property,
exchanges. Yep.
crypto. Yeah, you can do all of that and have it disassociated from your social security number. That at bottom is the real power. When Nelson Rockefeller coined the phrase own nothing, control everything, he was talking about entities like this. But I have modified his saying, and I say personally own nothing, personally control everything. That's the difference with this. And
Okay.
we can help you do that. And Mike, I would like you, just because you took advantage of it, you know that we also, for people who might have more sophisticated needs with business structures or whatever, we have a couple of really smart people that I can also provide that I do not promote within the website, but that is determined when I am having a private consultation with you. But can you just?
I spent an hour talking with those two people you're referring to, and they laid out. I mean, I did it because I want to learn more about how to go beyond the basics with your structure. And what they described and showed me, they did a screen share and they showed me is absolutely genius.
Right.
It's genius. And it's simple. It's lawful. It's codified under law in California law and recognized federally, recognized by banks, recognized by counties, property recorders, car dealers. I mean, anything that you can do as a corporation or a person or a LLC, you can also have done as a UNA, it turns out. So,
yes.
I mean, it opens up a world of possibilities. Anyway, that's all I want to say right now here on the show.
Can I say one thing though?
Okay.
Because I love your book engine, Mike, but I'm telling you, somebody could go into the book engine and with a 3-sentence prompt become an author of how these UNAs work. I will tell you, everybody, I dismiss all the books in there because I have read enough of them and I have not written any of them, by the way. I've not prompted any of them, but I kind of have to unlearn people sometimes and I'm just telling you, everybody, a consultation with me, I can tell you how these really work.
Well, yeah, the AI engines really don't have good information on this because the information has been kept
so secret
under the radar.
Right.
By the lawmakers who created the structure themselves for themselves, basically. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they built this for themselves.
That's true. So I'm just telling people that please don't waste your time going out and trying to become a subject matter expert on this with your Lord and Savior ChatGPT or through reading any of the books, because it is gigo, garbage in, garbage out. And these large language models just aren't trained on the reality of how these operate.
They don't have it. Yeah.
So that's just I want to save people time.
AI needs to have a very large corpus of data in order to achieve expertise. That's why
who's going to feed that data, Mike? Not me.
There's really not that much that exists. Like I can feed 500,000 articles into an engine about nutrition.
Right.
And then, it's going to be very competent on nutrition. But there are virtually no articles about this because the very people who created it, lawmakers in California for the most part, they don't want the public to read about this for obvious reasons.
And like I have said, just like they don't teach nutrition in medical school, they don't teach UNAs in law school or accounting school, and accountants and attorneys, they are there to serve those who give them their accreditation. How do I say that?
Yeah, that's right.
And so you guys do the math. It's like they're not going to be bringing you these solutions.
Nope.
But start
All right,
your
well-
journey, my575e.com, hit let's go, and there you go. We can lead a
At
horse.
least learn about it. Yeah. And then my free course on genetic repair using nutrition and some things you can grow for free or nearly free yourself. That will be coming out by the end of August is the current timeline, and we'll keep you posted on that.
And stay tuned because, Mike, you and I are going to do a full show on that.
Yes.
Either right before the release or after the release. But
I got to have the graphics ready. I'm working on the graphics engine right now. And once we have the graphics, then I'll ask you to schedule.
And you know what you should do, Mike? Because I know that it would be easy for you to do this, but we should do the show. And then you should just plug it in as as an add-on when people
yeah, it's a great idea.
Get the course if they choose to move forward and get the course, so they could watch it on their own time, their own time frame.
Okay, I like that idea. That sounds great. Okay, well, another great show today.
Indeed,
very interesting. Learned a lot about sodium
too. Thank you, Dave Collum. Thank you very much. You are an excellent
Dave.
guest.
I think he's the first organic chemistry professor we've had on the show, actually.
Absolutely. I don't think they grow many of those on trees.
No, like most organic chemistry professors are not as interesting as Dave Collum. Typically. Yeah.
I'm thinking that's probably the case, but he was. I love him. And Dave, we really wish you the best with your
vertigo,
the dizziness. Yeah. And go for that technique, man, because Godspeed.
It doesn't have to stick around because, as they say, verticum and vertigo. Okay. Boom. So we'll leave it there.
We can't leave it better than that, Mike.
Okay. Well, folks, catch all the other episodes at decentralized.tv. Mike Adams and Todd Pittner here. Thank you for watching today. Have a great rest of your day.
Cheers.
Take care.